Caddo Parish Sheriff Steve Prator is joining us for a little bit. Hey, Mr. Steve, welcome back to KEEL. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Okay, so yesterday we had Secretary of Corrections Jimmy LeBlanc on, and he was touting a meeting that he was in town for yesterday morning at 9, and we assumed that law enforcement officials from all over the Arklatex would be there.
You're kind of a law enforcement official.
Maybe
Now wait, before we go too far, I didn't meet with Jimmy or talk to him one-on-one any. I did go to that meeting, the big meeting that we had at our facility, and to welcome everyone. So I did go to the big meeting. I just didn't meet with him individually or talk to him at all.
Okay. So he was here yesterday telling us that the Justice Reinvestment Act, as backed by Governor Edwards, but passed by a bipartisan vote in the state legislature, is a huge success, that it's saving money, that we are no longer the prison capital of the world. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's wonderful. We're not the prison capital of the world anymore. That's great. And I'll be the first to tell you that the Department of Corrections did need to make some changes. They certainly needed to improve some of the things that they were doing, and this bill allows them to do some of the things that administratively they could have been doing all along. But there's parts of this bill, and that's why I want people to completely understand it's a 10-act bill. It's not just letting a few people that smoked marijuana out of jail a little early. That's not it at all. We're all for people that can do right and take the right programs, and we think that they can blend back into society. That's fine. Who doesn't want that? We want them out of our jails. But the problem is that we're being told that they're nonviolent offenders, they're non-sex offenders, and that sort of thing, and that's not the case. There's people that are being let out that have violent histories, criminal histories, and there's people that got breaks. And parts of the, don't believe me if you don't want to, but go to the internet and look up the Department of Corrections, their own website, look at the Louisiana Justice Reinvestment Reform Practitioner's Guide, and then go to page 6, and it's got a recap of all the bills in there, and it's got laid out in this booklet everything that changed.
You sent me some examples of things that you and I consider pretty violent, that are nonviolent. Go over some that are now considered nonviolent. Okay. Go over some of those that are just kind of shocking.
I'm going to read one bill, for instance. It's Act 220, John Alario, and it reduces Senate Bill 220 by Senate President John Alario tailors sentences for drug offenses by weight, trimming penalties for possession, and raises the felony theft threshold from $500 to $750, simplifies theft and burglary crimes, and then the one that I like best on that same Senate Bill 220 is the one that says, and I'll read it exactly as is on theirs. Senate Bill 220 removes the following offenses from the violent crimes list: mingling harmful substances, extortion, and illegal use of weapons or dangerous instrumentalities. Those are no longer violent crimes. And if you'll read that it's removed, that includes drive-by shootings, because as chief of police, we didn't have anything we could charge people with drive-by shootings, shooting out of a moving vehicle. We couldn't charge anybody anything if they didn't hit somebody. And so the only thing we could charge them with was illegal use of a firearm in the city limits, or illegal shooting a firearm in the city limits.
So literally it was the equivalent of if they just won the lottery and fired a gun into the air, right?
Right. And so I had this bill changed. I worked hard to get that done, to put that on there, that people that drive by and happen to miss you, that's still a violent crime. Or people that slip, say if your daughter's at a bar or your wife is at a bar and somebody slips a date rape drug in there or tries to poison someone, that's not a violent crime any longer.
Excuse me, Mr. Steve. One of the ones Aaron mentioned was breaking into somebody's home with a gun is no longer considered violent? Clarify that for me. Maybe I misunderstood.
No, that's still considered violent.
The minimums have changed.
If you look on page 7, it's got a chart of things, and it says home invasion armed with a dangerous weapon. The prior law was mandatory 5 to 30 years. The new law is 1 to 30, and the 1 is not mandatory.
Ooh. Okay.
Now, it's got a chart on there. It's simple to read. I just want everyone to go and read this, and you'll see the parts that really are disturbing to me, like your third nonviolent felony. Say, for instance, a person burglarizes a home, and then he gets caught and convicted. He gets out, he burglarizes 10 homes, and he's caught, and he pleads guilty to 1 burglary. And then he gets out again, and he burglarizes 10 homes, and he pleads guilty to 1 home burglary. He can still get probation, even though it's his third offense. Same things with third and fourth offense DWIs. You can now get diverted or probated. And diversions are not convictions, therefore it's not recidivism. So the problem is it's like you got, just because if you got pimples and you call them measles or you call them freckles, nothing's going to change. You still got pimples. And we're just changing the names of some of these things.
Sheriff, let me ask you this, because I know you're thrilled to have all this happening. All this savings of money, we've started all these great programs to help all these inmates, and all these folks are now going to have jobs. That's going on, right?
No. We're designing the bus while we're driving the bus. And somebody's going to get killed. People are getting killed when you start operating like that. You can't. The programs are. We're not doing anything differently than we were a year ago when these people were released. We had the first reentry program, and we started back in, I think, 5 years ago at CCC, because we've been trying to help people not come back to see us for as long as I can remember, because that's the humane thing, and it's the sensible and logical thing financially, and just morally the right thing to do.
What do you know about the programs that are coming and the money that is supposed to be coming?
Look at the last page. I believe it's next to the last page of what I've given you, the practitioner's guide, which is put out by the Department of Corrections. And it says that 20% will go to Office of Juvenile Justice Strategic Investments. I don't know what that is. 25% will go to DOC Strategic Investments. 10% will go to grants for victim services. 10% goes to the victim services. 15% goes to community grants. And 30% goes back into the general fund for our legislators and our governor to spend.
Oh, boy.
So look on the page 38 of that. I'm just encouraging the listeners and the media, which I can't get any of our local media to care about this. All they want to do is to say that a few people are getting out of jail a little bit early, and that's great, and everything's fine. But that's not the case. There's things that have changed in this that that didn't need to be and should not have been changed.
I'm going to post this at keelnews.com today so folks can get access to it and read the whole thing and know what they're doing. All right, Steve?
Right. It's talks about debt forgiveness. If you get if the judge orders that you get reimbursed the $3,000 somebody stole from you, the most that they can pay is a 1 day's wage a month, and if they do that for a year, the rest is forgiven.
Oh my! No matter how much they stole from me.
Right, it's in the bill. Just look at. Don't listen to the sheriff. I'm subject to get
Mr. Steve. Let's wrap it up with this question. Do you feel like does the possibility in your mind exist? Given what is in this bill, the Justice Reinvestment Act, that since it was passed by a bipartisan vote, Dems and Republicans, that maybe a lot of people didn't know what was in this?
I don't I know that some of them didn't because they've called and told me that they didn't. And I've talked to the two sheriffs that were on it, which were hand-selected, and they were some of the sheriffs that were less vocal, and that they certainly were less, they were more on the liberal side than law and order sheriffs is what I would consider them. But they're good people. But I'd like to have been on it and had my little say. But the governor wasn't going to put me on it. I know, and no telling what he'll do anyway. With the criticism that I give, but I'm not. I'm worried about the people and their safety in Caddo Parish. I'm not worried about the governor or any election, including my own. I'm just going to do what's best for law and order and the safety of the citizens of Caddo Parish.
Caddo Sheriff Steve Prator.